This is a Markbass, the Alain Caron model combo, or a 121 lite combo. I've had maybe 7 shows in the last 2 weeks that I've been bringing it into, and it did a great job. So I'm going to do a little quick run through of and a first impression that I have about VGA basses. I am a VGA artist, so my opinion might be a little biased towards them, but there's a reason that I chose VGA to endorse. That's because I love the necks, I love the electronics, I love the way they feel, I love the way they look. So there is a reason behind it, and I'm sure that if you can find a place that does carry them, just put one in your hands, just try it out, and you'll know what I'm talking about. They're kind of rare to come through, especially in America. They're much more common in Europe. They're made in France. But I'm sure that if you do find a place, a dealer that does carry them, you'll know what I'm talking about. Markbass is much more common because Guitar Center carries it, so you can find it anywhere. I don't know how common the Alain Caron model is, but jazz guys have known and loved Markbass equipment, especially the 12-inch speakers and the Lil Mark II or Lil Mark III. They've been very popular with jazz guys. They came out, I think about 3 years ago, they came out with the Jeff Berlin model combo, and they came out with this Alain Caron combo. Both are very, very different. Jeff Berlin his model is much more based on the Lil Mark and the 115. The Alain Caron model is completely different from anything they've done before. It's bi-amped. That's why you cannot connect an external extension cabinet to it, but it does have an unbalanced out, so you can pair it with any combo if you want to stack them. If you want to, if you have other combos lying around, like my little GK that I've done the review for before, you can just take an unbalanced out and combine any combos that you have together and have this control and master for them, which is really handy. That also means that if anything happens and one of your amps doesn't work, when you have combos, worst case scenario, you still have a bass amp with you. Alright, so Alain Caron has a very extensive video, about a 20-something minute long video that he showcases everything and go through all the parameters, and be sure to look that up if you are interested in that app. It's a very extensive view. In this video, I'm just gonna give out my little first impression that I've had in the last 2 weeks playing all these shows with it. It is amazing. It's not the cheapest amp that you can get, but you are getting a lot of power out of a very, very small size rig, very lightweight. All over scratching. It is bi-amped. That means it has 2 separate amps for 2 separate drivers. It has a digital power amp, a 500 watt digital power amp that drives this 12-inch speaker, and another 100 watt analog amplifier to drive this little high frequency driver tweeter. This driver is not just a high frequency driver because the crossover sends it everything over 3K, which is well in the mids. So it is in charge of a much wider frequency range than most drivers and bass cabinets. Usually drivers are just for chime. This one is responsible for some of the mids. So it gives you a good overlap between those 2 speakers, and it gives you a much flatter sounding amp to begin with. So I'm guessing this is because Alain Caron plays a 6 string, and he wanted that high C to come out in the mix, or big chords. He plays a lot of piano-like stuff. He plays a lot of synth-based stuff, and you can really hear it with this amp. It really excels with certain stuff that get kind of swallowed by normal bass amps. So it really shines in that category. Only thing that's a little bit out of its reach is to reach those subharmonics, to produce those subharmonics in a way that really rattles you in outdoor gigs. Again, it can produce them easily in indoor gigs, even if it's a bigger stage. But I've even cranked the lows on the EQ, and It doesn't fart, it doesn't distort. There's this subharmonic that you can only feel, and I had a hard time getting those frequencies out in outdoor gigs. Not a big deal. This is usually in outdoor gigs. There's a PA system when you get the XLR out, and you have subs from the PA systems that will do that job for you. So that wasn't a big deal at all. The separate amp that drives the tweeter is an analog amp, a 100-watt analog amp, and it has no pad and there is no separate control for it, which would have been perfect if they had, because in high volumes, high gains, indoors, in a studio for instance, I will not mic it. Like at home, there is a slight hiss that is noticeable at home, never noticeable on stage, but it's not something I would mic in a studio. I would just use the direct out in the studio with this amp. You have controls on it, you have gain, you have low, which low in Markbass is it's a little odd. Low in Markbass is about 40 hertz. That's something you'd like to cut if there's a bad frequency in the room. You know, if you rattle the whole room. So the low control is mostly for cutting. That's why they set it at 40 hertz. You have the low mids, you have high mids, you have highs, and then you have the two filters that you can find in any Markbass amp. You have the vintage loudspeaker emulator, VLE, and you have the VPF, which is kind of a scoop. Same with different amp manufacturers have different names for it. For instance, Gallien-Kruger has a contour knob. Contour in Gallien-Kruger is usually a button that you press that is predetermined to give you a scoop sound. In Markbass, they have the VPF filter, and so it boosts highs and it boosts lows, and it dips down the mids a little bit. So it's great for slap, but you can dial in the quantity, which is awesome. It's not just a button that you can turn on and off. You can dial in the quantity and how much of that scoop you actually want, or each filter. Common mistake that people have when they try out Markbass amps is that they have everything in unity, everything at 12 o'clock, and expect a flat amp. And those filters are actually off when they're all the way down. So there is no negative to those filters. The VPF will never boost mids when it's all the way down. All the way down will give you a flat signal. Same with the VLE, it will just not cut any frequencies. It will just give you a flat signal when it's all the way down. So this is actually flat. I don't know if you can see the settings. Everything at halfway, and the two filters are down to 0. Let's unmute it. Loudspeaker emulator. Alright, I just wanted to have close-up for some of the extra features that are on here that I don't think they're on the low mark. There's an auxiliary in. That's a stereo 8-inch. Stereo 8-inch headphones out. And foot switch control. Foot switch control controls the mute. And the effects loop. I have this little big muff set up over here. So it's really handy when you have a whole bunch of effects that you need a trigger at the same time. You can have them on, just leave them on, and on standby, and just call everything out at the same time with the effects loop, which is really handy for that. It's also really handy if not all of your effects are true bypass. So when they're off, and your signal When the effects loop is off, your signal goes straight from the input to the output with no deterioration, signal loss. So these are a few more really handy features in the Alain Caron model. Thank you very much, and hope to see you in future videos. As usual, comment, give me your feedback if you have the same amp, or if you have suggestions for anything else I should do a review for. Subscribe, like, share. One last thing I wanted to say. I got this amp, like I said, about 2 weeks ago. That means I'm still within the 30-day return policy from Guitar Center, but I really don't think I'm going to turn this back. So with the faults that I've mentioned, with the little hiss from the high frequency driver, with whatever I mentioned, those are really minor stuff, and they are really in the shadows of what seems to be like the best combo I've tried. It weighs about 40 pounds. It's easy to carry with one hand, so you can take one trip from the car to the gig. So it's really light. It's just a little bit heavier than my Gallien Kruger, but 3 times the power. It has extensive controls and I/O. It has everything I would expect from a professional bass amp. And besides an extension cabinet output, but I'm happily giving up on the extension cab output to get this bi-amp configuration. And of course, like I said, they have the unbalanced out, so you can pair it up with any other combo of your choice. So Alain Caron himself and Steve Lawson, who's an awesome bass player and sound explorer extraordinaire from the UK. They both use 2 of these in stereo, so each one of them has 2 of these on stage. I'm really happy with just one. Some of the bigger stages that I've tried, I've paired it up with my Gallien Kruger, and it works really well with pretty much any other powered cab or combo that you might hook it up to. And most gigs, it's great by itself. You don't even need anything else for most gigs, unless you're doing like you're touring outdoor concerts. Then I would recommend just get 2 of them. It's awesome. And worst case scenario, if one crashes, you always have a working 600 watt bass amp, it's just great. I'm happy with it. I'm keeping it. There's a lot of amps in the market, and for this price, you can pretty much get most of what's out there. This amp, like street price for it, is at about $1,200. You'll get a little bit of change for $1,200. But overall, when you look at everything this amp does and how convenient it is to take it around and still get that quality wherever you go, I'm keeping this, and I'm really happy with my choice. So that's it for the Markbass Combo 121 Lite Alain Caron signature amp. Thanks for watching, and subscribe so you'll know about my future videos. And rate it, like it, comment below, especially if you have any suggestions for anything I should cover. This has been Roey Haviv, demonstrating the Combo 121 Lite from Markbass, Alain Caron signature model. Thank you. Goodbye.